Alright, hey everybody, Cody Menz here with another video that I honestly wish that I did not have to record here. This is a follow-up video to my previous video, basically calling on people to boycott World of Tanks based off of the 1.20.1 test server. This video, I'm going to be going over a couple articles that Wargaming released. So what was yesterday, March 31st, about the Common Test version 2 in response to the community's backlash. Going to be going over some articles and basically where do we go from here from a community, in my opinion. So Wargaming released the second version of the Common Test server today, along with a briefing, they're calling it, with regards to basically the community. First of all, I'd like to thank each and every player who's decided to voice their opinion, so far. Whether it was during the first two videos that I released here on YouTube in the comments or elsewhere, whether feedback forums, so on and so forth. I'm not the only person that believes that really the only chance we have here as a community to save the game that honestly we love, even though it frustrates the hell out of us at times, is to make our opposition and voices heard essentially before update 1.20.1 comes out. At that point, will Wargaming change things if things release and they're negatively received? Personally, I don't believe so. So the time's now to make your voice heard. This video is mainly going to center on kind of my thoughts and reactions to what Wargaming released here, where if you haven't really seen a lot about 1.20.1, I'd recommend reading Wargaming's news articles on their website, but also other content creators have created some really good videos in depth. I have a video basically called Enough is Enough about a bit about the patch and specifics, but definitely recommend watching as much as you can through other CCs as well. Now, my last video essentially called on you, the players, to decide how best to accomplish getting the community's voices heard. Personally, my opinion is I've been boycotting the game since March 25th, and I called on all of you to essentially not play the game, vote with your wallets, and also provide feedback in the meantime to basically make your voice heard the best way that we can do. It's honestly been nearly the longest I haven't played World of Tanks in over 5 years. There's only been a couple other times where I haven't played this long, and many of you passionately feel the same way, to where the time's now for us to be heard as a community, as players. I've been on and off making YouTube videos since World of Tanks and other content since 2011. And honestly, it's kind of impressive that Wargaming somehow has made the boycott video my 20th most viewed video in this short amount of time in this past week, and the most commented video, which to me is the most important thing, is like you as players voicing your opinion, your feedback, whether it's on videos or to Wargaming themselves, by a massive margin. It's mind-blowing. There's over 600 comments for a little community contributor like myself. I truly wish this wasn't the case. My goal is not to make videos like this. I wish Wargaming did not come to this. I don't like making videos basically against the game that I like, essentially my goal here isn't to kill the game, even though I'm telling you, in my opinion, for what I'm doing here, all I can do is control what I'm doing. And, I'm basically begging you to make your voice heard as best that you feel is possible here. But, my goal isn't to kill the game that's kept me entertained for over a decade. July of this year is going to be 12 years that I've played this game. I've literally never played a game more than 2 years, 3 at most, and literally thousands of hours into this. So my goal isn't to kill it, it's really to save it from the company that basically is publishing it themselves, and many community contributors feel the same way. A lot of those full-time CCs honestly have a lot more at stake, and it's very telling that they're essentially saying like, we don't want to make this content, and like it's very frustrating for everybody because like you're literally telling Wargaming that they're going to destroy something, and it's really difficult to make content about. And you know, I know a lot of people are struggling with that, not just creators but also you as players. So essentially, where do we stand now with Wargaming having released this, which I'm going to get into the articles here in a moment, and essentially, you know, their reaction to the community's overwhelming feedback in opposition of this patch. At least for myself, I honestly, going into about to create this, you know, video here in response to this, and I guess finish live streaming earlier in the night a different non-World of Tanks game, just for some fun. In the meantime, I've kind of talked myself back into boycotting the game, where I feel like, based off of their reaction, getting into that here in a moment, that I'm going to continue protesting the game prior to the 1.20 point update, or 21 point update, where I feel like Wargaming's literally done the bare minimum that they could have given a reaction to literally tens of thousands of players and nearly every single content creator telling them, like, just there's so many different elements of this patch, what's the largest patch honestly in the game's history, that they should not do, you know, basically two things, the crew and WoT Plus, that literally the response is almost insulting in a lot of ways, and some other very, you know, intelligent and passionate CCs have made some very good videos kind of going over this more in depth. But what I take from it is the response that I'm about to basically get into for these updates. It paints a very bleak picture for World of Tanks, where for the future of World of Tanks, it's really painting a picture of one with the game essentially fully moving into the pay-to-win category. Like, we all know World of Tanks has been kind of pay for advantage and minorly pay to win, you know, for years now. There's no denying that. But this essentially will move it fully into the pay to win category, which is almost unheard of for popular PC games nowadays, unless you're like Korean MMOs and like mobile games and stuff. But it's effectively going to kill a positive, you know, look from the player's perspective moving forward here. Basically, the future from what we can see is a future where we're not seeing basically desired improvements that continue to innovate the game and keeping the game exciting for us as players, and also attracting new players to the game and keeping the existing community engaged and basically excited moving forward. But rather, it's basically a future where monetization and honestly wringing out as much profit from the dwindling player base from a 12-plus-year-old game is essentially front and center in the #1 priority. And it's basically the priority above all, to where we've seen this not just with just this update, it's been happening gradually ticking up over the past, you know, several updates, if not over a year, dating back to field mods was kind of the start of it, where I'm reiterating basically my main message I said in my previous video. I'm calling on all of you, like, we as the players, essentially, without us there is no game. We don't want it to die, to where I'm not saying that with protesting or boycotting or whatever you decide on. That's not our goal. It's basically calling on you to decide what you feel like is appropriate response to what Wargaming is pushing out here in the 1.20.1 update. And that could be providing feedback to Wargaming about what you dislike, or creating content like CCs. It could even be basically posts on Reddit or the forums, comments in YouTube videos, anything. And essentially, you know, or you might fall into the category like me, where I believe the best message we can do as a community is saying enough is enough. That was the title of the first video I put out about 1.20.1, and vote with your wallet. End your valuable time starting now if you haven't already, until the 1.20 update releases, and honestly hope that Wargaming comes to their senses and listens to their community before it's too late. Where my original plan was honestly just basically protesting the game basically for a week, which is when I'm recording this video. Now I personally feel like we need to go a step further and at least do it until April 8th, another week, and hope that Wargaming basically puts out a test server 3 and a stronger response to the community's feedback, if not up to the patch's release date, which is scheduled for April 18th, which is when Onslaught season is to begin, I think April 19th. But basically the update is coming out then. Like, Wargaming has it essentially not penciled in, circled, and here's when it's coming. And that's basically if they don't respond to the community. And really what I'm about to get into, and I know this is dragging on here, but it's important for us to basically tell them no. Where, you know, honestly, it's just crazy to where some of you may think it's pointless to try. Not just talking to you as players, where more than just players, some people think it's pointless. And honestly, some of the feedback I've gotten about calling for this is pretty upsetting, to where, trust me, I wish that I didn't feel the need to create a video about this. Neither do I feel that, honestly, a lot of other community contributors or you as players wish that we'd have to devote so much effort to stop Wargaming from effectively ruining the game that a lot of us have enjoyed playing throughout the years. And personally, I think that using what tools we have is the least we can do to prove a point to them. A lot of us have no problems with supporting Wargaming financially, you know, while we blow up pixel tanks within their game. And the issue isn't really about that, you know. The issue a lot of us have is basically feeling like we're being taken advantage of. And honestly, the level of respect that leading up to the pending 1.20.1 update was already really being tested, like in every single update in recent memory. Like, start thinking back to the recent updates that we've seen, whether it's most recently back to like holiday ops. And honestly, like, it's kind of been like a ticking bomb that's been in my head, but finally 1.20.1 is kind of, it's just, they're shoving it in all at once, to where it's been a growing problem. But I feel like that's really the issue at hand, is essentially a lot of us feel like Wargaming essentially is just putting monetization above everything, and they do not care what you think as a player, as a content creator. They literally do not care. They just want your money, and you have to deal with it. In any event, so getting into the articles here, before I kind of finish up the little, I wrote a script, because if not, this would literally be 5 hours long and there'd be a lot of rambling. So they have two articles that they released March 31st here. One, Common Test 2 is here. Awesome. So what did they change? Based off of all this crazy, like, well-detailed feedback about how everything is awful, about a lot of different elements, about the crew system and WoT Plus mainly. The bulk of these changes is literally about Onslaught, that honestly they're kind of ruining with taking a lot of rewards out, but don't think anyone has even brought up Onslaught in any of these videos and stuff, because honestly it's not the issue about the patch. So whatever, they're making improvements. You have two sentences here. Two about crew perks. Two. Now they did release a different article about the crew, but literally two changes they've done for something that is going to be pretty much one of the largest changes ever to the game that they're proposing with this, you know, phase 1 of the crew change, just phase 1 here, 1.20.1. So they basically nerfed the teamwork perk. Okay, good. That's actually a good change. and temporarily reset, or basically crew perks can be reset for free. So getting into further, essentially Wargaming has listened to the community, and there is going to be a way to reset your crew skills for free when the update comes out. And then also some known issues. That's it. Nothing about WoT Plus. Nothing, basically further about how the crew perks or skills are essentially balanced and all the issues with that. Nothing. Literally insane, and that's where it's almost insulting. So getting into what they're calling the new crew perk system briefing here. Now, let me see if I can make this a little bigger, just in case some of you guys have some glasses and you can't really read. Now, I'm not going to go into this like line by line, but essentially it's almost like they're talking down to us as players. Like they don't think we know the game. And it's almost like insulting to where we saw this with experimental equipment. We saw it with field mods. We saw it with basically their updates they push in, and they're really, you see it with their basically events too, their loot box and holiday ops updates. They over explain and almost talk down to you as a player, and they try to justify essentially what change they're putting in, to essentially take your money, which they're a company and basically they have to make money. No one's arguing that. But the way they go about it's almost insulting. The way, they're essentially trying to tell us about how good this crew system is when universally everybody is saying how bad it is as a player. So you think from a company standpoint that when nearly 100% of your customers are saying this is awful and like these are the issues, and you're saying no, you're wrong, you don't see that happen because those companies don't stick around because you piss everybody off and they leave. In any event, they're saying essentially competitiveness of every perk and skill. They did do that with the crew basically update here, to where a lot more skills are more valuable and there's not just a few that you need. That's partly the issue because now you're going to need 6+ crew skills per crew essentially to be competitive, and they did not remove the level of experience you need for those extra skills that you essentially can just throw money at them or buy your WoT Plus account, or for those that have 5-10+ years in the game, a new player will never catch up to, and now your crews are that much better, so there's no point in essentially starting the game if you want to play it passionately and competitively, because there's no way for you to catch up. Basically, their wording is very confusing. I don't really want to read too much into this, but essentially they're talking a little bit about, the phase 2 and phase 3, where they're going to be removing 50 and 70% basic crew training. Awesome. Don't know why they're talking about this now, because we don't know when this is coming. Again, they're kind of trying to over explain things, and like this isn't even coming right now. Allowing a single crew to operate multiple vehicles, that's another thing not coming in this update. And implementing mechanics for transfer, basically of unused crew experience from one crew to another. For those that don't know, so like right now, they're changing the crew skills, but for phase 2 and 3, they plan on updating the user interface, and most importantly, so removing that basic crew training that you can do free for 50%, credits for 75%, and gold for 100%. So great change by removing that in the future. Again, not now. But they're also going to allow you to essentially take your one crew member and play on 2-3 tech tree tanks in addition to your premium tanks. Almost guarantee you that'll be charged for gold. Don't blame them. That's okay for monetizing that. And lastly, when it comes to essentially smashing your crew members that you don't need, if you decide to use them on 2 or 3 tech tree tanks, you'll be able to basically smash them and get their experience back in the form of crew booklets. Again, based off of this update, we don't really know anything about this because it's not coming yet. I can almost guarantee you, based off of what Wargaming is doing here and getting to the next sentence that's going to trigger almost everybody, I can always guarantee you Wargaming is probably going to, since they're removing, basically a way of monetizing their crews by somebody spending 200 bucks or 200 gold essentially per crew to get 100%, they're probably going to charge you to basically transfer your unused crew experience basically into a training book or to a different crew, whether it's they have a gold credit free option and you lose experience for doing the cheaper options, or some other form. Almost guarantee it, and that's why they're breaking it up in 2 to 3 phases of the crew system, and they're being very vague about how they're doing that. They are usually very vague about things, just like how they haven't talked about anything about experimental equipment recently. That's another looming, hey, they're going to probably charge for that thing, but that's just my own little conspiracy theory. But after all the feedback that we've given in this community, this line here, so monetization was never part of these goals at all. I can't say, the essentially BS word because of YouTube's content restrictions on language, but that is, I don't know, horse hockey? I don't even know the freaking word. I'm not one to curse, but Wargaming, that's probably the most insulting thing you could try to pass off. We all know you want to make more money, and these changes are almost solely designed to do that. Or else you would have offered everybody a free crew reset. And as we get into here, so they recognize they're not basically simple changes. Okay, so a special promotion. Promotions usually involve sales, payments, money. So they're literally saying they don't want to take our money or charge us for this, even though that was their original intention. Even after they were essentially warned that this is not a good idea before this update came out. And it's just, everyone was expecting like free resets, and yet we're going to give you a special promotion now. We're good. This is a step forward, but is it enough? I don't think so. So to help you get comfortable and experiment and settled on your preferred setup, from when the update releases until the end of the year, the first time you logged in, you can reset your crew perks for free. So only for 30 days when you first log in. You'll have 1 month to experiment with the crews as much as you want. Additionally, we'll throw in those 12 retraining orders that we were going to give you anyway. So is that enough? To me, great. Like, this change, it basically moves, so say from someone like myself where, hey, I'm going to quit, 1.20.1 comes out because they want to make me basically spend about $500–600 of my money to reset my crews after the update comes out for just my high tier crews, not factoring in all of my crews. To me, what if they're going to offer this and they're saying it's not about money and it's a special promotion, and other content creators have pointed out it's going to take a ton of time to just reset your crews. You don't have to assign the skills, you just have to reset them. You can do the skills and pick them later as you play your tanks. Now luckily there will be mods, some people from the community, I believe tanks.gg, that creator specifically will have a mod out where essentially you click a button, it'll reset all your skills automatically for you, and then you pick the perks later. Awesome. Why should it yet again be on the community to solve a problem that Wargaming is introducing because they want to take your money in a very sleazy way? It's crazy to where, why couldn't they just give 1 free reset per crew? Do the 90 days, give you the entire year, something, anything, to where 30 days is artificially limiting it, to where you're gonna be toying around with things, but will you actually change them all in that time frame? Because people have lives and jobs. Or once you do that, then they're going to keep making money because you might not have optimized your crew. Say you want to change one after. They're saying they don't want to make money, but it's clearly about money. It always has been. Now, getting into the FAQ they have here. Now, again, this is them trying to mansplain whatever. I guess that's a good phrasing here. Basically why this is good for you, and why you're wrong, essentially. So if all the perks in the system are useful, doesn't this force players to get them all? They're essentially saying here that, oh, while the crew system introduces new perks, and now, you have, say 9 skills for a lot of crew members, that you're gonna almost want them all. They're saying, well, you can pick and choose, because once you start getting like over 6 skills, it takes so much experience to get the next skill to where, the benefit doesn't, outweigh essentially the cost to get it. I was about to basically say that word. Wargaming, that's insulting. People are going to essentially, like the word I came up with, Wall Street's bets, basically sweat lord in their basement. I don't mean that insulting, but essentially Addicted Gamer is gonna throw money at you to get extra perks, because it's pay to win. Whether it's that or somebody who's played the game for 10 plus, nearly 12 years like myself, I will be at such a massive advantage over any other player for crews that I've been playing for over a decade, where the only way for you to catch up is to spend thousands of dollars per crew to have that advantage. Whereas before it was a pay for a little bit of advantage because your crews were better in the current system, but they weren't distinctly pay to win like a lot of these skills are. And it's insulting that they're telling people that you're not essentially expected to get all the skills. If that was the case, they would have capped those skills. And they're saying, well, okay, well then people would get mad because they had extra experience over the cap. Then let them move that experience to other crews, something, anything. But to say that it's not about making money, it's just insulting. Like, and they think that we're stupid. And it's literally moving the game from, pay for advantage and slight pay to win. Like, it's fully pay to win. Like, you're literally gonna have crews that just, it's almost like having a 6, 7, 8 skill crew is going to be you in a 100% trained tank versus that new player in a 50% lull tractor that we all remember. Like, we all experienced that, where you're driving out and you can't even see the tank that just obliterates you in 2 seconds because your crew sucks. That's what this is going to be. Now going on to this, like, why is the number of crew perks? Already went over that. And does the new crew system potentially create imbalance or overpowered crews? So to avoid imbalances, we've invested a ton of effort into simulating various scenarios, including applying the maximum possible bonus to specific performance characteristics, considering all consumables, perks, equipment, and more. No, you didn't. And we also conducted practical tests. No, you didn't. Nonetheless, we will closely monitor the situation after the release to quickly address any imbalances if they arise. No, you won't. So this line specifically, and I forgot to go back to the article about basically field mods, where they kind of said the same exact thing back when they introduced that. Very fastly, they shoved it in the game before people could basically learn everything about it. And the community was kind of, oh great, we get to tweak our tanks a little bit more, and didn't realize that it was all about monetizing the existing player base with additional experience and credit grinds. And honestly, it's affected some tanks' balances to where, so their solution to, say, the T110E3, which many agree that it was nerfed recently because field mods made it a little bit too versatile. So they nuked the T110E3 instead of adjusting the field mods for it. And they haven't even fixed field mods for quite a few tanks and classes that don't really make sense. They've literally done almost nothing to improve it since they've released it. And they said they'll closely monitor this and quickly address any imbalances. No, they won't. Wargaming has shown time after time, and this is where this is all PR to make them feel good and like they said this and like this is how it is. Time after time they've released broken tanks, premium reward tanks, introduced things that the community will point out very good points about why they're bad, and like you should basically spend more time basically developing this and testing it to where don't not bring it, but make sure it actually works before you do, because you're not going to change it afterwards. There is a laundry list of things that Wargaming has introduced, and then they just drop it and move on to the next cash grab. Like Grand Battles literally still says beta every single time you enter a Grand Battle for those that you actually have it enabled still. They don't even have the effort to remove a beta sticker on freaking Grand Battles that have been in the game. I don't even know how long at this point, 5, 6, 7 years. They don't even, I don't even think they've removed the beta tag off of the Hall of Fame that isn't even completed, and not all the tanks in the game are actually in it because they manually have to add them. And there's just a laundry list of things that they've put in, gotten a quick buck from or whatever, and moved on and dropped it. And this is exactly what will be here, where they want to introduce something that you will want and spend money on. That's the whole point behind this, and it's very insulting. And like the roll, to finish it here, like roll out, like, we want to express our gratitude for your comments, opinions, and concerns. Great. So Wargaming, and you as all the players here, they will be very gracious that you will be boycotting and voicing your opposition against the 1.20.1 update. So please continue to do that. Thank you, Wargaming, for telling us that they are basically gracious, or their gratitude, they want to express their gratitude that we are doing this. Hopefully it's enough to get them to change their direction here. And they believe that the new system will benefit all players and add more variety and depth to the game. It'll definitely add a lot new stuff to the game, but not in a good way. And the crew is an important mechanic of our game, and we assure you that we will continue improving it. I have no doubt that you are going to continue to try to improve it, but you literally can't improve a game mechanic when the sole function of that game mechanic, the number one thing, is making you more money and basically screwing over game balance and your players. There's no getting past that. Where any element of the game, say ammunition, the same issue, premium tanks, same issue, reward tanks, there's no way to actually make a good game and game mechanic that literally the number one thing is making you money. In any event though, so moving on here, since we got through these two basically patronizing, whatever, insulting responses, where even though I am happy that they are giving us essentially a free crew perk reset for 30 days when you log in, that's moved me from, hey, I'm done, to, hey, I'm gonna I'm gonna play the game. Don't know if I'm gonna be happy and support it, but at least I will give it a try after the 1.20 update comes out. However, still leaning towards like this is probably gonna be the end game for World of Tanks, where a lot of CCs I know, like, and they even reiterate it in their videos, they do not want to make videos like this because it's trying to basically stop Wargaming from pushing the game off a cliff for a last cash grab, essentially, to where that's been a conspiracy theory for a while. I don't think Wargaming deliberately wants to do that, but they're too boneheaded and stubborn to listen to their paying customers that this is not the way to essentially make the game more profitable, which God knows how it isn't profitable if that's the case. In any event, if anyone is still watching this, I thank you for suffering through what was probably, you know, the term that I coined was a midlife gamer's crisis. Basically that little rant I just did, where this video I was shooting for about 15 minutes to where I'm at 35 and it's probably going to end up being 40. So where do we go from here? Personally, I feel like Wargaming should consider postponing the entire crew changes. That's the point I'm at here based off of their response. And also the entire World of Tanks Plus subscription. That honestly, there's so much wrong with the crew, and that's all Wargaming responded to us, that did not even talk about the WoT Plus subscriptions because there's so much wrong with the crew system to even begin with. For those that don't know, you can watch other videos about the WoT Plus subscription, but the too long, don't care version is free bond demounting, which will destroy the competitive basically element in players' progression that they've worked for years to get bond equipment, but also you're paying essentially for an advantage to be able to do that. And in my opinion, also that's not talked about is the exclusive premium tanks, where they're starting with the TS-54. They're going to be adding more in, to where I think it's not talked about enough, but again, it's so hard just to get past the crew change, even get to everything that's wrong about this. But literally we've seen over the past 2 years, they sell less and less premium tanks directly in the premium shop. They've been locked behind loot boxes or auction events or whatever, marathons. Where here in 2023, we're literally like, this would have been its own big explosion of basically bad, you know, community feedback to Wargaming if literally, so TS-54, they are no longer selling you premium tanks. They are renting you the basically right to be able to play these exclusive tanks, to where the TS-54, like, let's be honest, not going to be the only one. I see them kind of turning WoT Plus into like their own Game Pass subscription essentially, where whether it's exclusive like first releases of premium tanks or just permanent exclusive premium tanks you can't get elsewhere, you're essentially renting a premium tank, to where if you decide not to pay your $9 stipend to Wargaming, you lose access to these tanks that you have equipment, crews, basically everything on, to where that's not even a thing in the game. Like every tank that you buy in a tech tree or premium tank or reward tank you own, you know, like, yes, you own a pixel tank. Wargaming, you don't technically own it, but they're now renting a tank to you for money. Like, that itself is crazy. Linking about that in the WoT Plus subscription. In any event, I feel like they need to postpone both of these entirely. And on top of that, apologize to the community. Some of you might be like, oh, Cody, you're asking for too much. That's a tall ask. Enter Exhibit 1 here, or Exhibit Rubicon. So this is Wargaming's essentially response from Wargaming CEO Victor Kisely. I don't even know how to pronounce his last name. Apologize for botching your name. Back in November 15th, or November, oh my god, not even November. What, November 3rd, 2015? Sometime around there, or March 11th, 2015. I don't even know. I don't even know what website I'm on. 2015 for Rubicon. For those that don't know, Wargaming attempted to implement crew bonuses to emblems and inscriptions, such as shaving off 3% of your reload time for putting a puppy sticker on your tank. Might be April Fool's Day today when my video comes out here, but I'm not freaking joking. They literally were trying to sell you crew bonuses for gold, because you only could buy them for gold back then, for putting decals on your tank. Not even joking. Basically back then, the community backlash was similar to now, what we have here today. Same level, like CCs, players, everybody in opposition, solely based off of that, because there was other stuff as you see here within, you know, that update. So Wargaming, instead of being insulting, you know, kind of how they are now, and kind of speaking down to the player base and offering like the smallest little reward and reaction they could with, you know, you have 30 days to reset your crews here, you know, forget about all the other bad stuff. Wargaming reacted by removing that entirely pay-to-win element from their update, and it never came back. And they were very swift about it and responded very quickly and issued this apology, where I don't think it's unreasonable to ask them to basically remove, whether it's temporarily, you know, basically these universally despised game-breaking elements with the crew rework and also the WoT Plus subscription from the 1.20 point update, basically, and go back to the drawing board, rework it, sandbox test it, what have you, and release 1.20.1 with Japanese TDs, onslaught changes, garage slots for credits, battle pass collections, and the recon mode. That's a massive update of itself without these two universally despised essentially elements with the crew and WoT Plus. It's almost easy to forget the other elements we're getting in this update because it's so big, because of how horrible these two things are. So I don't think it's that unreasonable to ask them to basically be this Wargaming, that their reaction here back in 2015 for something that almost destroyed the game back then, turned it around, and here we are in 2023, and the game's been wildly successful since then. Be that Wargaming, not the one that's literally going to essentially destroy the game. So I'm asking each and every one of you again here, you know, basically a week later after this first video, to please voice your opinion about the 1.20.1 update in the best way you personally feel that that feedback will be heard by Wargaming. For me personally, I'll be continuing to use what I can control myself as a player, which is my valuable time and hard-earned money, and specifically in my case, what reach I have here through my content, and hopefully what little clout I have being an advocate for players and being a content creator since 2011 in World of Tanks. Or not a content creator, but creating content. I haven't been a CC since 2011, excuse me. But please, you know, let me know what essentially you guys plan on doing, to where personally, I still plan on basically not playing the game here at the very least until April 8th. If Wargaming reacts again with another common test update, you know, next, you know, the 6th or 7th, basically for another update on the common test, or honestly up until the patch day on April 18th, to where I feel like we need to make our voices heard now as players, community contributors. That's really the best tool we have in our arsenal here, to where we don't want to see the game die. You know, we wouldn't be here otherwise. But this Wargaming that you see in this basically, you know, message from the CEO about update 10.0 seems to be gone, to where their sole and #1 purpose is essentially monetization at all costs, even if it's scorch earth. Everything is essentially like they hold no respect for essentially their customers. So please let me know in the comment section your thoughts about this and the update that Wargaming's responded with, you know, with basically giving us free crew resets, and if that's enough, to where has it changed your opinion on things. And for those that are still upset, like myself, I strongly recommend you watching basically other videos that CC's put out, because some go over very good parts that I haven't covered here for specifics on these changes still coming in this update. And honestly, you know, spread the word and decide, so most importantly, decide how best to make your voice heard now if you care about this game and care about making a change, whether that's boycotting the game and protesting, or basically providing a lot of feedback, what have you. Do what you feel is right, and basically, you know, helping essentially the game progress here going forward. Thanks again for watching this very long 15-minute video that I had planned here, and hopefully you'll see another video from me here, and maybe it'll be a little bit more positive, but that entirely depends on essentially what Wargaming does, you know, going forward here. Thank you. Have a great day.